Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Nick and this is On Buddhism, a series of short introductory video lectures on the topic of Buddhism. Today we're going to pick up where we left off. The Buddha was just giving his Deer Park sermon, where he talked about the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. We're going to pick up and ask some of the most important questions that the Buddha was faced with and that many practitioners early in their education are faced with. Why follow the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path? Why accept the Four Noble Truths as capital T true? And why follow the Eightfold Path as a means of cessation of suffering? Well, there's a couple of answers to that. The first revolves around the cycle of samsara. The cycle of samsara is the cycle of birth and death, wherein suffering occurs. This is the life that we know. It's what we wake up and do every day. It's the awareness that we have here. This is the cycle of birth and death in which suffering occurs. This happens across many lifetimes. As many of you know, reincarnation is an important concept in Buddhist philosophy and cosmology and understanding. And so, essentially, if you do not practice these things, you'll be stuck in this cycle and you'll be suffering for the duration of that cycle. In some schools and in some traditions, you might actually be reborn to a lower form or a higher form. This is not quite like some of us think it is. If you do bad things in this life, you won't be reborn as a cow or a dog or a rat necessarily, according to many schools of Buddhism. You might be reborn as a hungry ghost or as a demon or as something else like that, okay? How does one get out of samsara and what is it like? Well, freedom from samsara, which is ultimately the goal of all this practice, freedom from suffering, is nirvana or moksha. This is freedom or liberation from the cycle of samsara and the cycle of suffering. How does one achieve that? Well, essentially, if one dedicates their life to the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path in this life and in other lives over many lifetimes, then they are able to achieve nirvana. They do this because the good deeds and the happy merit that is bestowed upon a soul by practicing the Eightfold Path and the 10 good deeds and finding solace in the 3 jewels and all that good stuff, that accrues positive karma. If one accrues enough positive karma, then it will positively affect their rebirth in the next life, or they will finally reach enough karma to reach enlightenment. If they accrue negative karma, then their rebirth will be a negative one. They'll be reborn in a lower realm and doomed to even more suffering without as much freedom, okay? So we know that we're training and practicing toward nirvana and samsara and moksha, toward nirvana and release from samsara and moksha. What are the actual practical daily life things that we can do to get there? There's a few. Buddhism is a religion of lists, as you'll soon find out. The first 5 things that we should all follow, according to the Buddha, ways to, at least the bare minimum to get out of samsara, is the 5 precepts. The 5 precepts are non-violence, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no consumption of intoxicants. Non-violence is the absolute most important one. Many Buddhists, for this reason, are vegetarian, because killing an animal is negative karma. In addition to this, many monks are celibate because of the no sexual misconduct. They also will refrain from drinking alcohol or consuming any other kind of intoxicants because of that, because of the no intoxicants rule. These must be followed, and different schools have different interpretations on what this means in practice. For example, a very conservative interpretation would be that you must avoid stepping on all bugs all the time when you're walking on the sidewalk. You cannot ever take something that is not owned by you. You must be celibate for your whole life. You must not tell a single lie in your whole life, and you cannot consume any intoxicants ever. That includes caffeine, that includes alcohol, marijuana, cigarettes, anything, absolutely anything. A more relaxed interpretation of this would be have love and compassion for all things and act from that love and compassion. But don't get carried away and beat yourself up whenever you cannot, absolutely cannot protect every single living thing, when you cannot prevent yourself from stealing, when you cannot prevent yourself from lying. You know, a conservative interpretation of lying is lying and saying something that you know is not true. But another interpretation that exists in Buddhism is saying something that you don't know is not true, but happens to not be true. That counts as lying as well. So there are different interpretations to this. No sexual misconduct could mean no violent sex, no indulgent sex, no criminal sex, but consensual, happy, normal sex is fine. You know, so there's lots of different interpretations on how to live this. And I think that that's ultimately up to the practitioner, up to the individual, you and me, to decide how we feel about each of those. And we can piece together what we believe and how to practice that in our daily lives on our own. The next list that we can get to that assists us in being released from the cycle of samsara and achieving nirvana is taking solace in the three jewels. The three jewels are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha, meaning the historical Buddha, the life of the Buddha. The Dharma, meaning the way, the thing that he teaches, the path of Buddhism. And the Sangha, the community of people who also follow the Dharma, who also learn from the Buddha. Taking solace in the three jewels bestows positive karma on everyone in it. The growth of the community and the tightness of the community and the relationship and connection between members of the community is very important for achieving samsara, or achieving release from samsara. There's no way to do it alone. We can study all day long on our own, but we need to have other experiences and we need other people as well. The last big list, which we won't go over in this video, is the 10 good deeds. These are just actions that are associated with the 10 good virtues, and they play into the precepts. These include loving kindness. These include upright speech. These include giving alms. These include saving a life, etc. There's lots of different ones of these, and they're divided up into physical, mental, and verbal good deeds. And we'll talk about those in another video. So we've talked about some of the different interpretations and stuff, and we can employ all of these in our own way to achieve positive karma, attain positive karma, and achieve release from samsara, and achieve nirvana. Now, one might ask, okay, this takes multiple lifetimes, so why bother? Well, in addition to taking multiple lifetimes in order to reach nirvana and break through this cycle, it's also helpful right now. It feels really, really good to be generous. It feels really, really good to save a life. It feels really, really good to have integrity and not tell lies. It feels really good to take solace in the three jewels. And so you can achieve cessation of suffering in the immediate sense, as well as the universal sense in this way. What I mean is, yes, we can work towards achieving the release of suffering for all eternity, for hundreds, if not millions and billions of lifetimes, or we can do it right here, right now. I know that practicing nonviolence will help me achieve the release from suffering in this moment. And that practicing violence, verbal, physical, emotional, on anyone, including myself, would cause me suffering in some way. I also know that if I practice loving kindness and compassion, one of the good deeds, one of the 10 good deeds, that will make me feel good in this moment. And it will be a very special, positive experience in the right now. And so there's always this universal, soul-wide, eternal sense to release from samsara and to, achievement of nirvana. But there's also a very right here, right now sort of aspect to it, where if you practice these things in the moment, you'll see that they feel good, that they cause good things to happen in your life in the immediate sense. So in addition to practicing these for your whole universal salvation, I think that it's positive and important to practice these for your own immediate here and now salvation. Buddhism has no point if not for the here and now, right? Because there is no afterlife. There is no hell or heaven. There is no before this. There will be no after this. The moments between birth and death are the only moments that we have where we can exercise our agency over our future. And so why not exercise that agency in a way that comes from a place of universal love and protection for all things? Okay, I hope that you have enjoyed this video and learned something and found something that you can take home and try with you. I hope that you're doing well and staying healthy and happy and safe during the coronavirus pandemic. And I'll see you in the next video. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know and we'll discuss them. And let me know experiences you have with trying to put these into practice and what kind of discussions you like to have about them. I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.